I'm gonna show you how to shoot a basketball correctly. So first thing that's really important is that you get a smaller basketball, especially if you're a beginner. That's gonna help to make sure your form is intact because it's easier to control a smaller basketball. So a mini ball could be good, or a women's or youth ball would be great. So I think the best way to learn how to shoot a basketball correctly is by actually doing it. So I'm not only gonna give you tips in this video, but instead I'm gonna give you a sequence of drills that'll make shooting basketball the correct way, habit for you. You're just doing the drills. I'll give you a few little tips to pay attention to, but if you do the drills, shooting the basketball correctly will happen automatically. So the first is one-hand line shooting. And the goal is to basically hit a line with one hand doing the shot. So you want to start like this with your hand under the basketball and then rotate the wrist so it comes under it. And you'll notice how there's about a 90-degree bend here, about a 90-degree bend in the wrist, and I got my shoulder elevated. If I bring the shoulder down, ball's gonna fall off. If I don't have the wrist bent back enough, ball's gonna fall off. If I don't have my fingers nice and wide on the basketball, I have them too narrow, ball is gonna be a lot harder to control and it can fall off to the side. So a lot of little habits are being built right from that. And that's about the position you wanna be in your jump shot. The only difference is you're gonna have the other hand on the ball when you actually shoot. So I'm a lefty, I'm gonna have my left foot just outside the line, not quite centered. I'm gonna have just a slight shift of the left line. So the line's a little closer to the shooting side. Foot, hand under, I'm gonna come up, I'm gonna flick my wrist, and I'm gonna try to hit the line, miss there. Let's try again. Boom, perfect. A couple other things I want to pay attention to is that I want to make sure I'm extending the elbow and then snapping that wrist down. And I want to load my hips back, almost like I'm sitting in a chair, just slightly as I'm getting under the ball like this. And then notice how everything kind of comes up at once. If you want more in-depth details as far as shooting form, I'll have a video for you at the end that will really help. But a lot of these drills are going to take care of a lot of the things like I mentioned earlier. And you can see how having a smaller ball would really help with this one-hand shot. But as you're progressing, start working your way up to the size basketball that you're going to use for whatever league you play in, if you're men's, women's, youth, whatever the case may be. Then the next step is to do the exact same thing. We're just going to get that guide hand on the basketball. Now this is really important because a lot of players, as they start to shoot maybe three-pointers, even youth players trying to shoot free throws, some bad habits might creep in with that guide hand because they feel like they need to get extra power on the shot and they're going to use both hands to shoot and they're going to bring the ball down more here and go like this. We still want to have that arm go more straight up just like we are in the line shooting. So we want to think about the shooting hand doing all the work. The guide hand's just there to help us get the ball up and it makes it a little bit easier to control, so you know there's less of that ball rolling around thing going on. Now a lot of coaches will teach to have the guide hand on the side of the basketball, but I think it's better to focus on getting your fingers a little more to the front of the basketball like this. So that way, as you bring the basketball up, they're gonna be a little more on top of the basketball. And what that's gonna do is eliminate the possibility of you using this hand to push the basketball because it's not in a position to do so. But if I slide that hand back here, you can see how I can start flicking that thumb, and then sometimes it might push the basketball this way. If I don't flick enough or at the right time, then the basketball gets pushed this way because I'm kind of taking both hands and doing this. And that could push the basketball all kinds of different ways depending on which hand's touching the basketball last. So paying attention to that with the guide hand, I'm just gonna try to hit that line with two hands now. Another cue that can help simplify that is think about having the pinky touch the basketball last. That will also eliminate the thumb hitting the basketball last and flicking it. If the pinky is touching it last, if anything, you're gonna get yourself some more backspin, which is what you want, is that nice, perfect backspin where the basketball is going exactly that way. No side spin or knuckleball shots where there's no spin. Once you got that solid, now you want to come right under the rim and just take one small step back. And what this does is puts me in a position where if I shoot too far forward, I'm gonna hit the bottom of the rim. But if I get a nice high arc, it's gonna just barely come over the top and go nothing but net or barely graze the rim. And that's about the kind of arc you want to have on your actual shot. The only thing that's going to change a slight bit is as you go further away, the arm might come down slightly. We don't want to have it down here. We always want to have elbow at least at eye level, ideally a little higher. And that's again, even when we get to the three-point line. But we're going to start these shots one-handed. We're still working on just using that one hand, and we really want to focus on just having nothing but net. Try not to hit any of the rim, paying attention to all the same things we did with the line drills. And another thing that can help with this is thinking about which fingers are touching the basketball last. A lot of players, it's either going to be the pointer or the middle finger, but you want to make that consistent. Some players, it'll be kind of both off the basketball last, but you don't want it coming off the ring or the pinky, because then you start getting these weird sides flicks. Ball maybe rolls out there. It just gets all weird and wonky. It's really hard to aim it. And then when you got that feeling good, same thing, step back just barely to get it over the rim. And we're just gonna do the same thing with two hands. Again, for youth players and beginners, that might be a little challenging. So if you have an adjustable rim that you could bring down lower, that's an option you might wanna consider. But the next thing we're gonna work on is coming about halfway into the lane. So halfway between here and the free throw line, and start getting up form shots from there. Same thing, we're gonna use two hands, and we're gonna try to hit nothing but net. And for each of these, I would aim for 10 swishes before you move to the next spot. So 10 times hitting the line with one hand, 10 times hitting the line with both hands, 10 times swishing with one hand, 10 times swishing with both hands, 10 times swishing from here. And if you start making them here, then you're gonna move back to the free throw line. You'll notice a couple things change as I get further out. Even from here, I'm gonna get a little more hip involvement, and I'm gonna come maybe slightly onto my toes. A lot of players won't need to necessarily to have the power to get there. When you get to the free throw line, you might. But a good thing you can work on to make sure you're getting that form intact and just working on timing this snapping with the wrist and the elbow right as the hips are coming back up, or slightly after, just barely after. That's gonna give you some good power and energy transfer. So one thing that'll help you work on that is just keeping your heels glued to the ground even as you get back further. And that'll let you know if you're getting that timing synchronized well. And another thing you can do to get more range without having to push the basketball here or use both hands is just think about making that motion faster. If I do it slow, the ball's not gonna come up as high. If I do it fast, I can easily launch that ball. So as you get to the free throw line, those are some things you wanna think about, but also don't be afraid to come on those tiptoes, because that's gonna help you transition to the next thing, which is making shots off the dribble and making shots in games. The free workout that's pinned to the comments will help you with that. And this is the video with the detailed breakdown and shooting form. Hit the like button if the video helped you, and I'll see you in that free workout next.